Thomas. The voice was distant, warbled like an echo in a long tunnel. Thomas, can you hear me? He didn't want to answer. His mind had shut down when it could no longer take the pain. He feared it would all return if he allowed himself back into consciousness. He sensed light on the other side of his eyelids, but he knew it would be unbearable to open them. He did nothing. Thomas, it's Chuck. Are you okay? Please don't die, dude. Everything came crashing back into his mind. The glade, the grievers, the stinging needle, the changing memories. The maze couldn't be solved. Their only way out was something they'd never expected, something terrifying. He was crushed with despair. Groaning, he forced his eyes open, squinting first. Chuck's pudgy face was there, staring with frightened eyes. But then they lit up, and a smile spread across his face. Despite it all, despite the terrible crappiness of it all, Chuck smiled. He's awake, the boy yelled, to no one in particular. Thomas is awake. The booming sound of his voice made Thomas wince. He shut his eyes again. Chuck, do you have to scream? I don't feel so good. Sorry, I'm just glad you're alive. You're lucky. I don't. I don't. You're lucky I don't give you a big kiss. Please don't do that, Chuck. Thomas opened his eyes again and forced himself to sit up in the bed in which he lay, pushing his back against the wall and stretching out his legs. Soreness ate at his joints and muscles. How long did it take? He asked. 3 days, Chuck answered. We put you in the slammer at night to keep you safe. Brought you back here during the days. Thought you were dead for sure, about 30 times since you started. But check you out. You look brand new. Thomas could only imagine how non-great he looked. Did the grievers come? Chuck's jubilation visibly crashed to the ground as his eyes sank down toward the floor. Yeah, they got Zart and a couple others. One a night. Mino and the runners have scoured the maze, trying to find an exit, or some use for that stupid code you guys came up with, but nothing. Why do you think the grievers are only taking one shank at a time? Thomas's stomach turned sour. He knew the exact answer to that question, and some others now, enough to know that sometimes knowing sucked. Get Newton Albie, he finally said in an answer. Tell them we need to have a gathering, soon as possible. Serious? Thomas let out a sigh. Chuck, I just went through the changing. Do you think I'm serious? Without a word, Chuck jumped up and ran out of the room. His calls for Newt fading the farther he went. Thomas closed his eyes and rested his head against the wall. Then he called out to her with his mind. Teresa. She didn't answer at first, but then her voice popped into his thoughts as clearly as if she were sitting next to him. That was really stupid, Tom. Really, really stupid. Had to do it, he answered. I pretty much hated you the last couple of days. You should have seen yourself. Your skin, your veins. You hated me? He was thrilled she cared so much about him. She paused. That's just my way of saying I would have killed you if you'd have died. Thomas felt a burst of warmth in his chest, reached up and actually touched it, surprised at himself. Well, thanks, I guess. So how much do you remember? He paused. Enough. What you said about the two of us and what we did to them, it was true. We did some bad things, Teresa. He sensed frustration from her, like she had a million questions and no idea where to start. Did you learn anything to help us get out of here? She asked, as if she didn't want to know what parts she'd had in all this. A purpose for the code? Thomas paused, not really wanting to talk about it yet, not before he really gathered his thoughts. Their only chance for escape might be a death wish. Maybe, he finally said, but it won't be easy. We need a gathering. I'll ask for you to be there. I don't have the energy to say it all twice. Neither one of them said anything for a while, a sense of hopelessness wafting between their minds. Teresa? Yeah? The maze can't be solved. She paused for a long time before answering. I think we all know that. Now. Thomas hated the pain in her voice. He could feel it in his mind. Don't worry. The creators meant for us to escape. Though, I have a plan. He wanted to give her some hope, no matter how scarce. Oh, really? Yeah, it's terrible, and some of us might die. Sound promising? Big time. What is it? We have to. Before he could finish, Newt walked in the room. Cut him off. I'll tell you later, Thomas quickly finished. Hurry, she said, then was gone. Newt had walked over to the bed and sat down next to him. Tommy, you barely look sick. Newt, Thomas nodded. I feel a little queasy, but other than that, I'm fine. Thought it'd be a lot worse. Newt shook his head, his face a mixture of anger and awe. What you did was half brave and half bloody stupid. Seems like you're pretty good at that. He paused, shook his head. I know why you did it. What memories came back? Anything that'll help? We need to have a gathering, Thomas said, shifting his legs to get more comfortable. Surprisingly, he didn't feel much pain, just wooziness. Before I start forgetting some of this stuff. Yeah, Chuck told me. We'll do it. But why? What did you figure out? It's a test, Newt. The whole thing is a test. Newt nodded. Like an experiment? Thomas shook his head. No, you don't get it. They're weeding us out, seeing if we'll give up, finding the best of us, throwing variables at us, trying to make us quit, testing our ability to hope and fight. Sending Teresa here and shutting everything down was only the last part. One more. Final analysis. Now it's time for the last test. To escape. Newt's brow crinkled in confusion. What do you mean? You know a way out? Yeah. Call the gathering. Now.